The night air in New Orleans always has a certain weight to it, a mix of magnolia, swamp water, and secrets. I was sitting at a corner table in the Gilded Cage, a jazz club tucked away in a less touristy part of the French Quarter. The music was a slow, smoky melody that seemed to cling to the velvet curtains. I wasn't there for the music, though. I was there for him. His name was Julian, and he moved with a grace that was almost predatory. He'd been in town for 3 months, and in that time, 3 people had vanished. The police had no leads, but I knew the signs. The victims were always found drained, with 2 small, almost invisible marks on their necks. The official reports called it an animal attack. I called it dinner. I caught his eye across the room. He smiled, a slow, confident curve of his lips. He thought I was just another tourist mesmerized by his dark, brooding charm. He had no idea my grandmother's locket, the one I was fiddling with, wasn't just a family heirloom. It was filled with finely ground silver and ashwood dust. He made his way over, his movements fluid, silent. A beautiful night for such a beautiful woman to be alone, he purred, his voice as smooth as the bourbon in my glass. I offered a shy smile, playing the part. Maybe I was waiting for the right company, I replied. We talked for hours. He told me he was a historian, specializing in the city's nocturnal history. How fitting. I told him I was a freelance writer, looking for inspiration. He was so sure of himself, so confident in his power. He thought he was the hunter, and I was the prey. He didn't know the game was rigged. He suggested a walk through the Garden District to admire the moonlit architecture. I knew what that meant. A secluded spot, away from the crowds, perfect. As we strolled past the grand, shadowy mausoleums, he started talking about immortality, about a world hidden from mortal eyes. He was testing the waters, trying to lure me in with promises of eternal life and power. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to live forever? He asked, his eyes gleaming in the faint moonlight. I stopped by an ornate, iron-gated tomb. I've thought about it, I said softly. But everything has a price, doesn't it? He chuckled, a low, dangerous sound. Some prices are worth paying. That was my cue. He moved in, fast as a striking snake, his fangs extending. But I was faster. I'd been doing this since I was 16. I sidestepped, my hand already reaching for the stake hidden in my boot. His eyes widened in shock as I spun around, not with fear, but with a hunter's cold resolve. The price for your kind of life, I said, my voice dropping its playful tone, is me. He snarled, a truly monstrous sound, and lunged again. He was strong, inhumanly so. He managed to grab my arm, his grip like iron. You're a hunter, he hissed, disbelief and rage warring in his voice. I should have sensed it. I smirked, twisting out of his grasp using a move my grandfather had taught me. You were too busy admiring your next meal. The fight was a blur of motion. He was a whirlwind of claws and fangs, but I was a dancer of a different sort. My family has been doing this for generations. We know their movements, their weaknesses. I dodged and reaved, using the tombstones for cover, waiting for my opening. He was arrogant. He relied on brute strength, not strategy. He lunged one last time, aiming for my throat. I dropped to one knee, letting his momentum carry him over me. As he flew past, I drove the axe with stake upwards, right into his chest. There was a terrible, guttural scream that was cut short, followed by a shower of dust and fading embers. And then silence. The only sound was the distant wail of a saxophone drifting on the night air. I stood up, brushing the dust from my clothes. I picked up my locket from where it had fallen, its silver surface gleaming under the moon. Another one down. The night was still young. I walked out of the cemetery, melting back into the lively streets of the French Quarter, just another face in the crowd. He thought he was hunting me. He didn't know I was the one who hunted the hunters. The city was a little safer tonight, but my work was far from over. There are always more monsters hiding in the shadows. and I'll always be there to meet them. Thanks for listening to my story. If you enjoy Tales from the Shadows, make sure to follow for more. See you next time.